opening and early life of Al Capone. Close your eyes and imagine a man who ruled a city without being a king. A man who controlled millions of dollars without owning a single legal business. A man who made politicians afraid and police silent. His name was Al Capone. This is not just a crime story. This is the story of power. This is the story of ambition. This is the story of how one man rose from nothing and ruled the underworld of America. Tonight you will hear how a poor immigrant boy became the most feared gangster in history, and how his empire of crime was built on fear, money, and blood. Al Capone was born in the year 1899. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. His parents were Italian immigrants. They came to America with hope. They wanted a better life. They wanted safety and opportunity. Al was one of 9 children. The family was poor. They lived in a crowded neighborhood. Life was hard. Work was scarce. Crime was everywhere. As a child, Al was not different from others. He went to school. He played in the streets. He dreamed like any other boy. But the streets of Brooklyn were dangerous. Gangs ruled the area. Violence was normal. Power came from strength and fear. Al learned one thing very early. If you wanted respect, you had to be feared. At the age of 14, Al dropped out of school. Education ended. Street life began. He joined a small gang. This was his first step into the criminal world. Here he learned how to fight, how to threaten, how to control. One night he was working in a bar. He insulted a woman. Her brother attacked him. He slashed Al's face with a knife. That wound never healed. It left a permanent scar. From that day, people called him Scarface. But Al hated that name. It reminded him of weakness, and he never wanted to be weak again. That scar changed him. It made him colder. It made him stronger. It made him more dangerous. Al joined bigger gangs. He met powerful criminals. He learned how crime really worked. He learned about illegal gambling. He learned about protection money. He learned about smuggling. But New York was only the beginning. His ambition was bigger. His hunger for power was stronger. Then America changed everything. In 1920, alcohol was banned. This period was called Prohibition. The government said no one could sell alcohol. No one could drink alcohol. No one could make alcohol. But people did not stop drinking. They only started buying it illegally. And illegal alcohol meant one thing: huge money. Al Capone understood this before anyone else. He saw the future. He saw the opportunity. He saw power. So he made a decision that would change his life forever. He left New York. He moved to Chicago. Chicago was a city of crime, a city of corruption, a city waiting for a king of the underworld. And Al Capone was ready to become that king. This was the beginning of his rise. The streets had trained him. The scar had hardened him. And Chicago would crown him. Chicago and the birth of an empire. Al Capone arrived in Chicago with nothing but ambition. He was young. He was hungry for power. He was ready to rule. Chicago was different from New York. It was more dangerous, more corrupt, more open to crime. Here, criminals did not hide. They controlled the city. Al met a powerful man named Johnny Torrio. Torrio was a smart gangster. He saw potential in Al. He became his mentor. Torrio taught Al how to run crime like a business, not with emotion, but with strategy. Alcohol was illegal, but demand was massive. People wanted to drink. Bars wanted to sell. Money was waiting. Al Capone started building secret alcohol factories. He controlled trucks. He controlled warehouses. He controlled distribution. Soon alcohol was flowing across Chicago, all under his control. Money started pouring in. Thousands of dollars, then millions. He paid police officers. He paid politicians. He paid judges. The law became blind. The city became his. Anyone who tried to stop him was removed. Some were threatened. Some disappeared. Some were never found. Fear became his strongest weapon. People began to whisper his name. Not loudly, not openly, but with fear. Al Capone was no longer a small gangster. He was becoming a crime boss. Bars and clubs worked under him. Gambling houses paid him. Smugglers followed his orders. Chicago was slowly falling under his shadow. When rivals attacked, he responded with force. When enemies challenged, he destroyed them. Power grew. Control expanded. Respect turned into fear. He dressed like a businessman. He smiled like a gentleman, but ruled like a dictator. The underworld had found its king. By the mid-1920s, Al Capone was one of the richest criminals in America. He owned luxury cars. He lived in expensive hotels. He moved with bodyguards. But this success came with blood, with violence, with silence. Chicago belonged to him, not officially. But in reality, this was not just crime anymore. This was an empire, and empires always attract enemies. Al Capone had reached the top. But the higher you rise, the harder you fall. The peak of power in the Valentine Day Massacre. By now, Al Capone was unstoppable. His power was everywhere. His fear was everywhere. No gang could challenge him. No politician could ignore him. No police officer could touch him. Chicago was his city, but power always brings enemies. And Capone had many. One gang stood against him, led by a man named Bugs Moran. They wanted his empire. They wanted his control. They wanted his crown. Capone decided to end it. Not with words, not with warnings, but with fear. In the year 1929, on a cold morning, something terrible happened. Capone's men dressed like police officers. They walked into a garage, where Moran's men were waiting. The rivals believed they were being arrested. They lined up against the wall. They stayed silent. They followed orders. Then the guns came out. 7 men were shot. 7 lives ended. In seconds, blood covered the floor. Fear covered the city. This became known as the St. Valentine Day Massacre. America was shocked. Newspapers exploded. The whole world knew his name. Al Capone was no longer just a gangster. He was a symbol of terror. Yet he was never charged, never arrested, never proven guilty. The law had no proof, no witnesses, no courage. At the same time, Capone showed another face. He opened soup kitchens. He fed the poor. He helped the hungry. People were confused. Was he a villain? Or was he a hero? But behind this kindness was a man who ruled through violence. His money came from blood. His respect came from fear. The city lived under his shadow. He walked freely. He smiled publicly. But his hands were stained. This was the peak of his power. The king of crime, standing above all. But history teaches one lesson. No king rules forever. The law strikes back in the arrest. For years, Al Capone lived without fear. Everyone knew his crimes, but no one could prove them. Murder, smuggling, bribery, violence, all were connected to him. Yet nothing was written in his name. He never touched a gun. He never signed illegal papers. He never gave direct orders in public. He was careful, very careful. The police tried many times. They failed every time. The city was tired. The government was embarrassed. The nation wanted justice. Then a new idea was born. If they could not catch him for his crimes, they would catch him for his money. They asked one simple question. If Al Capone was so rich, why did he not pay taxes? No gangster had ever been arrested for this before, but the law allowed it. Investigators followed his lifestyle. They counted his houses. They counted his cars. They counted his luxury. They knew he was making millions, but he reported no income. This was the mistake. This was the opening. In 1931, the government moved. Al Capone was arrested, not for murder, not for violence, not for crime, but for tax evasion. The king of the underworld was shocked. He believed money could save him. He believed power could protect him. But this time it failed. The court was serious. The evidence was strong. The decision was final. Al Capone was found guilty. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison. The city was silent. The underworld was shaken. The man who ruled Chicago was now just a prisoner. No bodyguards, no luxury, no power. Only cold walls and locked doors. The empire was over. The fear was gone. The king fallen. Alcatraz and the end of a king. After his sentence, Al Capone was sent to prison. At first, he believed he would still control everything. He believed his power would follow him. He was wrong. Soon he was moved to Alcatraz, the most feared prison in America. Alcatraz was different. No corruption, no bribes, no protection. Here, Al Capone was not a king. He was just another prisoner. No guards feared him. No inmates respected him. No power followed him. For the first time in his life, he was powerless. Days were silent. Nights were cold. Loneliness became his companion. His health began to fail. His body grew weak. His mind slowly faded. The man who once ruled a city now cleaned floors and followed orders. The underworld forgot him. New criminals took his place. His empire disappeared. Years passed, and the legend slowly died. When Al Capone was finally released, he was not the same man. He was broken, quiet, and forgotten. He returned to a small home. He lived away from people, away from noise, away from power. In 1947, Al Capone died. There were no crowds, no fear, no glory, only silence. The man who once ruled Chicago left the world unnoticed, and his story teaches one powerful lesson. Power built on fear never lasts. Money earned through crime never brings peace. An empire built on violence always collapses. Al Capone had everything: money, power, control. But in the end, he had nothing. No respect, no legacy, no honor, only a name in history and a warning for the future. This was the story of Al Capone, the man who ruled the underworld and lost everything. If you enjoyed this dark and powerful story, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because here we uncover the hidden stories of history, the rise of kings, the fall of empires, and the truth behind legendary figures. New dark history videos are coming very soon, so stay with us and be part of the stories that change the world.